third and final Diary of a Wimpy Kid movie in the original series, because there's actually three more. There's one called The Long Haul, which a lot of people didn't like. I thought it was fine when I was a kid, but it wasn't one that I rewatched all the time. I always watched the first two. I wasn't a big fan of this one, still not a big fan of this one. It's better than I remembered, but still not a big fan of it. Um, and then there's two animated movies. The first animated movie was okay, but not long enough to really talk about. Not anything really interesting to talk about. And then Roderick Rules was fucking boring as hell. The animated one, not the live action one. So anyway, they really reduce Roderick. He's kind of just here to be dumb. Of course, he wasn't the smartest in the other movies, but he's just kind of dumb here. Yes, some interesting things happen here and there, but he's just not as good as the other movies, and he really doesn't do much. They really cut his character down. They do more with the mom and dad, which I did enjoy that. Of course, it has the infamous "Who's the laugher now" scene, so that's a plus. There are things that I did not expect in this movie, like they actually do stuff with the Civil War, which I remembered, but it is a kids' movie, and they have the Confederate flags, which is a controversial topic for whatever reason. I think Confederate flags are bad, and that's that. Who cares if you want to remember one part of the history? There's more bad stuff about the Confederate flags than there is good. But the good thing is, at least Frank is not on the fucking Confederate flag side. Um, he's on the American flag side, but the Confederates actually kind of win in this version. Obviously not real life, but during the reenactment, Greg shoots the horn, blowing their element of surprise. So the Confederates fucking win in this movie. So that's a bit dark to think about, even though it's just a reenactment. But in this version, the Confederates got to keep slaves, and Greg was the cause of that. Just think about that for a minute. They bring the dog in from the book. The cat has not appeared once in the movies, besides like little animated segments, but there is a cat in the books. But yeah, they bring in the dog. So that was something. Holly Hills makes a return. So two movies in a row, which doesn't usually happen for most characters unless, they're Fragley, the one girl with the ponytails, or Shirag, or obviously Rally. Because Bryce didn't really return. I think they did mention him a few times in the sequel, but he didn't return. And obviously the one girl didn't return. The coach was in all the movies, though he has a very small role in this movie. He just gets called by Greg by accident, and then that's it. That's all he is in the movie for. But in this movie, Greg doesn't realize that stuff costs money, because he starts going to this country club with Rally and racking up a bill, which is $260. Um, which is honestly not too bad compared to other kids' movie stuff. Like fucking Gabe from Good Luck Charlie made a $300 bill because he didn't realize stuff cost money either. Except he was way younger than Greg. Obviously, Greg looks a lot older in this movie. Not too old for the role, but definitely older. So, yeah. They could. I think they could have squeezed out one more movie, since he did not even go to the 8th grade yet. This movie was about him spending time in the summer. So I would have liked if they would have at least finished it. Because, the whole point of Diary of a Wimpy Kid is he's a kid in middle school. So they still had enough time for one more movie. I don't know what they would have done, because I'm forgetting what the 5th book is. Though I do own 13 of them. I have not read them in a long time, so I remember bits and pieces of the first few because I read them a lot. Um, but yeah, Roderick, I didn't like how much of a smaller role he had. Um, Frank gets revenge on this dude that apparently he used to not like or something, that he had problems with when he was younger. Greg tries to get with Holly Hills again. You know, that was a big plot point of the second movie, but it didn't really go anywhere, so they just recycled it in this movie. I don't know if they did that in the books, they probably did. But that's kind of lame to just do the same thing twice because he didn't successfully do it the first time. So it's kind of just another movie of him trying to get with Holly Hills, but other things also happening. Like, um, Greg using Riley's dad's computer to text his mom, which obviously he would be able to see the email because it's his fucking computer, which wasn't very smart, and he accidentally calls the police and hangs up, which gets the dad in trouble. The mom is recasted, so she's here now. It's a decently funny movie. There's good parts, but it just doesn't hit the same as the first two. It's just not as good as the first two, that's for sure. And yeah, that's honestly really about it. Oh, actually, you know, even though they try and avoid Fregley as much as possible in the first two movies, they're perfectly fine working with him and teaming up and all this kind of shit in this movie for whatever reason. That was kind of odd. He's basically just another friend in this movie. He's not even really the weird kid. Besides in the beginning of the movie when 7th grade ends or whatever, he's still weird in that scene. They talk about how he never showers or something. Yet for the rest of the movie, they're perfectly fine with him. That was odd. But honestly, really, that's about it.